We can't. Security has been a stop sign for the last 20 plus years, where we have just said, no, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do this. We can't allow that to go through. We can't allow this to happen. But in order to allow our businesses to continue to operate, we really can't go with that mindset anymore. So we have to become maybe more of a yield sign where, you know, the company needs to do something. We have to figure out quickly how to best allow the company to be able to do those things securely. So I think again it's a bit of a mind shift in security and technology, going from the smart people that are hunkered down in the SOC to business focused professionals that understand the technology but are also interacting with their organization.
Welcome to Podcast Wise, Perspectives, Cybersecurity, and AI. If you are a technology or cybersecurity executive today, you already know the old playbook is broken. For 20 years, security has operated like a stop sign, focused entirely on a prevention-only mindset. But in a highly decentralized, AI-driven corporate landscape, drawing hard lines doesn't protect the business. It simply forces teams to build shadow workarounds. Today, I am sitting down with veteran technology executive Matt Nelson. Matt breaks down why leadership must transition from a, quote, castle-and-moat mentality to a resilient, containment-first posture. We discuss how to translate complex technical vulnerabilities into the language of dollars and cents for your CFO, how to responsibly pause and implement guardrails around generative AI, and why a culture of psychological safety prevents catastrophic data leaks. This is a masterclass in modern executive alignment. Let's dive in. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey there, Matt. How are you?
I am great, then. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. All right, I'm going to jump right in. So, Matt, looking at the rapid convergence of the technology and business strategy today, what is one best practice currently accepted in the industry that you think executives should actually abandon?
Oh, that they should abandon. I think we have to abandon, to a degree, this prevention only mindset that we have. If I look back at security over the last 20 years or so, it's been a lot of like defending the castle. And so we've done, we've built the defenses up, we've put up the walls. And I think anymore, we still have to do that. But I think this idea that we're going to keep all the bad guys out if we just build strong enough defenses, I think at this point, that's kind of an antiquated mindset that I think people should get beyond.
Yeah, I think so too, because if you think about it, now is more so one, you got to be preventive, right? You can be preventative, and then also your resilience, because it's not really what if it happens, is really when it happens, because
Yeah,
the
and
attacker will come in just when, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I've actually taken that even a step further of, the win is now. Chances are very good that we have some compromised credentials in our environments already.
Hmm.
So it's how far can they get and how much damage can they do, I think is the new mindset that we have to look at. So containment, response, remediation, I think those things are really critical these days.
Yeah. Now, when taking over a complex technical or operational landscape, how do you align a legacy team with a forward looking, high growth vision without causing operational friction?
Yeah, that is definitely a topic to dive into because much like myself, there are a lot of us that have been in this industry for a very long time. I remember a time before Wi-Fi, for example, when
Mm.
we just had everything cabled in, and we were crawling under desks to connect computers together. So I think there is certainly a lot of that old mindset that still permeates a lot of organizations. I think while we live in a modern world of ones and zeros, I still think communication is the key here. And that communication has to go beyond the walls of IT or security. It has to become integrated into the business. So, what does our business do? How do they go to market? What are things that the business is worried about? And if we start building our technology and security around our company and not just around the way we've always done things. And I think it forces us to have to start looking at things in a different way.
Hmm. Now, for a C suite audience juggling compliance and innovation, how do you define the line between acceptable strategic risk and a liability that requires immediate mitigation?
Yeah, I think this again goes right back to having to understand what your business is doing.
Hmm.
We can't, security has been a stop sign for the last 20 plus years where we have just said, no, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do this. We can't allow that to go through. We can't allow this to happen. But in order to allow our businesses to continue to operate, we really can't go with that mindset anymore. So we have to become maybe more of a yield sign where, you know, the company needs to do something. We have to figure out quickly how to best allow the company to be able to do those things securely. So I think again it's a bit of a mind shift in security and technology, going from the smart people that are hunkered down in the sock to business focused professionals that understand the technology but are also interacting with their organization.
Okay. Now, everyone is rushing to implement AI. From your perspective, what is the framework leaders should use to differentiate between a shiny tech trend and a tool that drives actual ROI?
Yeah, there's a couple of sides to the AI conversation. One of them is certainly the taking what AI can do for you in terms of making your company operate better and faster, and getting more out of your employees, increasing their productivity and all of that sort of thing. And then on the other side of that is the securing it so that the stuff that we're doing isn't escaping out into the world, or that we're not being breached and attacked by it. I think the key there is both from a leadership standpoint from the business, as well as a leadership standpoint from security. It's really fighting the urge to get caught up in those shiny new objects. There's a lot of important things that we have or haven't done over the last 20 years around data and identity and other areas to do the security piece of it. But I think as business leaders, we also have to understand that increasing productivity is a fantastic goal that we absolutely should be working towards. But if we just go out and start implementing things, or we don't have policies in place, or we're not putting some sort of guardrails in place, that productivity will be counteracted by having data leaking out, or having a breach happen. So,
Hmm.
in a world of a lot of very shiny objects that are out there right now, I think to me the key is pause, assess what you're doing. What are you really trying to accomplish as an organization? And then be able to move forward from there.
Yeah. It's like an example of when the new model of a new phone comes in and you're like, oh, let's try it. Like when the new flip phone came in, right? Not
Yeah.
not not the old school flip phone, not this way,
You're
right?
right, right,
But
right.
now the folding phone,
Yeah, yeah.
when that came in, everybody's like, "Oh, let's get that, this is a shiny new toy." But then you realize after a while there's like this dent in the middle of your screen. You're like, I don't know. Then you got to wait maybe a few iterations of these models to be like, okay, there's no more lines, right? I don't know if that's the case now, but I'm just saying that that's like an
Yeah.
example.
Honestly, and this again will date myself, but when Microsoft came out with their Windows Phone many, many years ago, I was immediately enamored, and then I went out and bought one.
Hmm.
And then almost immediately regretted it, because that died a short and painful death. So I think that's exactly right. If we take another, even kind of human aspect of that, new vehicles.
Hmm.
I have also made the mistake of, like, oh, a brand new model of this vehicle come out, and went out and bought it, and then ended up having some problems with it versus maybe waiting for the next year when they had refined some of that. So yeah, I think that's exactly it. We absolutely want to take advantage of all of this new technology. I think our leaders on the business side, they're going to conferences and they're seeing all the benefits of leveraging and utilizing the new technology. But I think as security people, it's maybe our job to say, well, hold up. What exactly are we trying to do? Is this the right path? Have we thought about this? Now, again, that requires us as technologists to speak business language and understand, how our executives listen and how they consume information. But everybody should take at least a little pause, right, before they go jumping headfirst down a path that, again, the benefits could completely be erased by having a massive breach.
Yeah, and make it even worse.
Yeah. Yep.
So, in high stakes environments, a team's culture is tested daily. What is your non negotiable rule for fostering accountability while maintaining psychological safety?
Yeah, I think anymore it's uh, not having people going rogue. And this can even be across department. There was a time where, say, the network team was the security team. That's back when we were in that castle-moat type of mindset. And then security teams built up, and some of that splintered nature inside of organizations has continued. And I think we're at a time now where, network and IT and security and compliance and legal and public relations and business leadership all have to work in some level of cohesion with each other. So if you have one team kind of running off or one person running off and doing a lot of their own things, to me, that's the non-negotiable part. We can't do that anymore. We can't have, pet projects that we're doing because, that could cause more down level problems as all of these businesses and environments are more intertwined. And if you have one, developer or IT person or security, whoever that may be, kind of going off on their own and doing things without that communication piece, I think you're certainly setting yourself up for potential problems.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think going from working in silos to working more in tandem has been the trend, right? Because like before, is everything siloed off? The IT department, I mean, when I used to work as a help desk, the IT department was literally on the side of the building, and then everybody else was like together, right? And like
Yeah, yeah.
like we were on the side, and then there's the conference rooms, and then there's everybody else, and you're like, okay, I guess like you're
Yeah,
like,
I had one of my last I would say back when I had a real job, my last administration roles was in a separate building with no windows, and they really had the technology people all quartered off into their own place. And I think with modern technology and the way companies are today, we might be working with teams around the globe, but I still think you have to have that teamwork and express your ideas and work alongside of these other teams, because otherwise, again, you could just have something that goes completely wrong there.
yeah. Now we are drowning in data, but starving in insights, starving for insights. How do you filter out the noise to focus on the two or three critical metrics that actually move the needle for leadership?
Yeah, data is a topic that I feel like I've been talking about for 20 plus years, and only in like the last 6 months has anyone paid attention to me. So either I got better at talking about it, or something else changed that's gotten people listening. I think, data in particular tends to be something that once we create, we never get rid of. If we go back, a lot of organizations have been uh, using, digital ways of storing data for 20, 30 years now. They've changed formats, they've changed locations, they've changed technologies in terms of where and how they're storing data. We should have been keeping up with this from a security and IT perspective all of those years, but honestly, we just didn't.
Hmm.
There wasn't maybe something that was really pushing us there. So I think, in an era now where data exfiltration is easier than ever, we have to go back to square one, really, of what our data looks like. Know where it is, have real, actual retention policies, have real clear guidelines in terms of where people can store data, how they store data, how long that data is kept around. Do we archive data? Do we finally delete some data? And that kind of ties into the access piece of it and the identity piece of it as well, where we have, numerous over permissioned credentials across our environments. It's not easy, wouldn't be easy for sure, but I do think we have to go back and just get an understanding of what our data actually looks like. On one side, leveraging AI technology to, securely look at real company data could provide endless amounts of benefits for the organization. But if you have, data that isn't valuable to the AI that's still around, other than potentially being leaked, or again, you just have data kind of scattered all over, you're not really able to give your internal LLMs the right data that they need to produce good results. And again, now you've don't have any real visibility into where all of this data, may be stored and what it is. To me, that gets down to really needing to have a very accurate scan and classification, categorization of your data to know what it is. To me, that's the building block for everything else. If you don't know what it is, you can't build any policies or programs or security around it.
Yeah. And also, I think about data also is like, you think about it, how many versions of a document can you have? Can you keep? Should you keep?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's another thing. Like I know that at one of my other jobs that I had, we had probably 50 versions of one document,
Yep.
and then you're like, which one do you keep? Like, do you keep them all? It's like, and then in retention,
Yeah.
do you keep them for how long and all that stuff? It's all like things that are not talked about because you forget that you have those versions, right?
Yeah, and how much storage is being eaten up, which has a cost associated with it, right? By
Hmm.
multiple copies of the same data. I've seen that too, where people have, giant PowerPoint slides and they've got 100 copies of them, or, other scenarios like that, where, outside of the security concerns, there's just we're spending money on storing and backing up things that absolutely don't need to be.
Right. Also, like screenshots. I'm notorious for screenshots. Having like random screenshots for I don't know why. I just like okay, yeah, just I think I might need this screenshot for later on, but then I don't ever go back and revise whatever screenshot that is, and it's just like
Yeah, well,
so many screenshots.
I'm with you there, and like I say these things. Well, if somebody went and looked at my personal storage, they'd be like, "You've got a whole bunch of stuff here you're never going to look at." So I am not preaching from a mountaintop by any stretch of the imagination here. I'm as
Yeah.
guilty as anyone. Yeah.
So, legacy systems can paralyze growth. How do you pitch the ROI of tackling technical debt to a board or a CFO who only wants to fund net new features?
Yeah, I think again, if we are presenting something to a board of directors or to a CEO or to an executive, are we talking in ones and zeros, or are we talking in dollars and cents? And I think we've maybe not done a great job. One of the smartest career moves that I made myself was deciding to go back and get a business degree about halfway through my career. And I think that for me was a game changer because it did give me more of a firm understanding of the business side of the technology equation. And so, if you have, and leaders think in terms of dollars and cents and risk. So if you have an old antiquated system that is not able to be patched, maybe is not supported any longer, to just go to an executive or a director and say, "Hey, we have this old system. It's on, uh, Microsoft, whatever. It's running whatever. It's doing whatever, and we need to upgrade it. I need $500,000." That's not an equation that leaders are able to understand. But if you can paint this in terms of risk to the organization and say that again in very business focused language, you're going to have more attention paid to that. So a lot of times it's not what we're saying. It gets to be that like how we're saying it type of thing. And I think painting that in terms of risk is really important. The most successful CISO that I have ever worked with was there's a lesson I learned from him. He was incredibly good about quantifying the risk to the organization in terms of dollars and cents instead of just saying, we have this system that's vulnerable. That doesn't necessarily mean something to a board of directors, but saying, hey, we have a system that we believe if it's compromised is $500,000 worth of risk to the organization. It's going to cost us $200,000 to replace that system. uh, Now we're talking in business language, and that was always the key to him getting a lot of his security programs and technology programs passed.
Yeah, you can say something like, there will be this amount of downtime with, uh, which will equal this amount of lost revenue with equal amount of, uh, you know, bad publicity, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Approve.
I mean, that's the world that they live in, right? And
Hmm.
to be honest, I think that's challenging for a lot of security and technology people. I talk about it a lot at events that I host and groups that I stand in front of. But if anyone, if say a younger person getting started in the industry asks for my advice, learning to speak the language of business is one of the very first things that I give them. To me, that's more important than Python skills. I think as we move forward, we really have to be speaking that business language. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too, where tech speak, tr- being able to translate tech speak to business speak is a skill that uh, the technologists need to learn.
Yeah, it's challenging because not everybody has every talent, and I think a lot of technology people were gifted with enormous IQs and the all the giant brain people that are out there, and maybe that doesn't correlate into some of the other soft skills side of things, but the beauty of some of this new technology that we have now is you could put your technical thoughts into an AI program. Only use the approved ones that your company authorizes. But you can ask it things like, "Hey, this is a presentation that I need to give. Take what I'm telling you here and put this through the lens of I'm explaining this to an executive." And it'll help you, reshape and reform your thoughts into that. I think that's a really good use case for some of this new AI technology.
Yeah, I totally agree. Uh, so every executive faces a defining crisis. Without naming names, walk us through a high pressure situation where you had to pivot a strategy in real time. What did that teach you about decision making?
Yeah, yeah, I have I think a perfect example of that where there was and I think this actually connects to the previous question and conversation was I knew that there were some systems at an organization that I was working at that were old and antiquated, and there was a real risk to the organization there. And I think, to be honest, I think I did a bad job of explaining the risk of these outdated systems to the organization. And then those systems did fall down, and we had massive outages that we were dealing with, and then we had to then I got approval for what I needed, but that was
Right.
the wrong time to get that, right? Was
Mm.
after the fact. So, um, you know, to me, again, it had maybe had I been better at the time of being able to explain what that risk looked like for those systems, we wouldn't have had the issues that we did. So, I think, in terms of pivoting, we certainly have to do that sometimes. Something like that. Did anybody cause that? No, that was just something that happened. I think every business deals with something that happens, a system that goes down, an outage, maybe an application that an update fails on, things along those lines. There again, I think communication is key to that, both beforehand, so you know that you've done a good job of communicating those things, but then also afterwards. Okay, something is broke, get the team together, who talks to who does what, so that you can recover from it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And also that showed your resilience, right?
I think resilience is the should be the word of 2026. It'll undoubtedly be AI, but I've been talking a lot about that from a security program standpoint. Is if we are in the we're almost beyond assume breach. I think we have to assume that that's a given.
Hmm.
I was talking recently with a very decorated red teamer, and if anybody that's watching this, if you haven't ever met any ethical hackers, go find one and be their friends. They have the best stories. But I asked this person point blank a week or so ago of have you ever been hired by a company and you couldn't get into that company, like you couldn't break in? And basically the response was a bit of a chuckle, and then no, that's never happened. So I think
You're like,
yeah,
"Ha, ha, 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 ha,
uh,
ha."
and that's one person. Now granted, this is a very high level person in their field, but imagine that now with AI technology behind it, and the machine speed at which things can operate, and we're far past that assume breach. We really, like, that is just the level set. We have to operate as though we're already breached. And so resilience and containment become incredibly important. Like, is is a small incident going to take over your entire environment and cause something catastrophic? Or are you building a resilient security program so that when it does happen, that you're able to, mitigate that, and contain that as much as possible? So yeah, I'm one vote from me on resilience being the word of 2026.
Okay. So another vote for me. Also,
There's two. We
there's
probably need
two.
some more, but we got a couple.
We got a couple. So cybersecurity, product, and finance often speak different languages, as we spoke earlier.
Yeah.
How do you translate complex technical realities into business outcomes that the rest of the C-suite can rally behind?
I think if you change the conversation to one of enablement and not one of stopping things from happening, I think that immediately gets people thinking a little bit differently. So, for example, let's take data. We talked about that a little bit already. If we can talk about, uh, if we do this program, we will be able to enable the company to do this, either something that's net new, or making a current process better, faster, stronger, more secure. It's just again, it's a slight tweak on how we're communicating those things, but I think it's an important one. If we talk in terms of enablement and how the program we're trying to get money for, or budget for, is one that is going to help the company make more money or do things faster, expand their territory, things like that. It's a very different conversation than saying, "Hey, I need $300,000 to do this data security program." If we say, "Hey, we are going to do this data security program because one, we want our internal LLMs to have the very best information about our organization so that the business can leverage this. Oh, and at the same time, we are reducing our risk because now we have some controls in place." So it's the same exact conversation. It's just done differently. And I think it's then done at a level that that fits more to the business side of things.
Yeah, and they can relate to. And it's something that it's psychologically, they're like, yeah, that's better. Like saying no versus saying yes, like,
I mean, if you think about it, for a long time, we said no to a lot of new technology. Shadow IT crept up, and then the cloud came around, and we said no to a lot of new cloud technologies. Oh, and Shadow Cloud crept up, and then a lot of SaaS applications started happening. We said no. Shadow SaaS crept up. Now AI is out there. If we say no, shadow AI is going to creep up. So I think just human nature. I mean, it's the same with my kids, to be honest with you. If I tell you them no, they're probably going to go and do it.
yeah.
So I think there's just a human component to this. And, I think, yeah, I think that's kind of key there. So
Well,
don't just say no, right? Security people that are listening to this, learn how to say yes to your organization with the correct guardrails around it.
yeah, it's like for kids, they'll learn how to. So I remember when I was younger, uh, there's s- some of my friends that were like, "Oh yeah, we can't do this, blah 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 on the computer," but I found a way to do it. Right. So it's like they'll figure it out. They'll find a way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
My daughter's one of my daughter's high school has a very firm no AI policy. I can tell you every single one of those kids has found a way around that no AI policy. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's called another computer.
That's right.
It's just not rocket science.
Right. Yep.
um, all right. So, what breaks first when an organization tries to scale its operation exponentially, and how can leaders preemptively reinforce those weak points?
Hmm. What breaks first? Um, I think it is growth is always a positive, right? That's what every organization is trying to do. But I think um, if you haven't set some of the fundamentals in place, and that could be, culture and teamwork and structure and communication and a lot of that layer as well. But even from a technology perspective, if you haven't, you have to not just build for now, but build for where you're wanting to go to. And so I think it goes again. I'm probably sounding redundant here a little bit, but I
That's all
think a
good.
lot of these things are intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to me again, it goes back to a lot of that fundamental stuff of are we building resilience? I'll use that word again. Into what we're doing now versus it is much harder to do some of that stuff when you're a really big organization versus when you're a smaller organization. Things don't get easier as you get bigger. And even things like communication. If you're not doing a great job of communicating when you're a 50-person company, you're going to do a really bad job of communicating when you're a 500-person company. So I think you have to, you know, build some of that stuff just in as soon as possible. Now, if you're already a 500-person company, it's never too late, as the Care Bears used to say, if you care enough. And I think there's always opportunity to say, no, let's take a step back. we're here now, but let's build this foundation from here so that as we grow from a 500 person company to a 1,000 person company, we don't run into the same types of problems that we did with this last growth that we've been through.
Yeah. I totally agree. But it is also, if you quote Notorious B.I.G., uh,
Ooh.
more money, more problems.
From the Care Bears to Notorious B.I.G. I think we I think we ran the entire spectrum
Yeah.
there in one conversation.
Yep.
I think honestly, one of the things that I don't see enough companies doing is like policies and governance, especially a lot of smaller companies and organizations. I think they're just moving and they're growing and they're not putting those policies in place. I do think that's an important thing. Now, on the flip side of that, if you put a policy in place and then you don't check it for 2 years, that policy is only as good as when it was written. So
Mhm.
those are the types of things that have to be, updated on a regular basis as your business is growing. But it does give you something to go back to, right? Again, that foundation on which to build on. If I look at that scenario from a security lens, I talk to a lot of organizations. One of the questions that I love asking is, do you have an incident response plan in place? And most everyone will say yes. And then I'll just follow that up with like, well, when's the last time that you've tested it? When's the last time you've had a tabletop? When's the last time that you've sat down with everyone from the CEO to HR to all the technology groups and everyone in between and said, we just had a ransomware attack. What do we do?
Mhm.
Who handles the communication? Who talks to the board? What do we do from a public standpoint so our customers are okay? What do we do from a technology standpoint to recover from that? If you are having to take hours or days when a breach or a ransomware attack happens to just figure out who does what, it's already too late. So
Yeah.
policies, procedures, and keeping those routinely checked and updated and tested again and tested again. I think that's a good way to keep you from breaking as much as you're growing.
Yeah. I l did a little chuckle, when you said policies and procedures and not being tested, and that's because at one point in my career, I was the person doing the policies and procedures and testing. So I did a little chuckle because, I had to do all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
So brought me a little bit of memories where I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Good thing we did test. I
Well,
wonder if they're still testing, but
well, and that stuff is challenging, right? Because it's not fun.
Mhm.
The fun stuff is like putting in a new system, launching a new application, launching a new website, doing, all of that stuff is the fun things that we get to do. The important stuff is not the fun stuff. The important stuff is that mundane, routine things that honestly we sometimes overlook just because they're not that exciting to do, but that's the stuff that really can bite you if you're not doing it, as having lived that life.
Yeah, and the thing is, the more you talk about it, the more it sounds like a relationship, right? Like if you think about it, the boring stuff, is like, yeah, you don't want to do it, blah blah blah. Like you don't want to be at home doing the boring stuff, but you
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to do all the exciting stuff.
it is way more fun to cook dinner than it is to clean up the dishes afterwards, right? But that's
Right.
an important thing to do so that you're ready for the next meal and have a clean plate to work off of. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, as a organizational structures become more decentralized and tech driven, what is the single most critical skill a modern executive must develop to stay relevant over the next 5 years?
Oh gosh. Um Excellent question there. Um I think a couple of ways to look at this. I do think that business leaders need to understand that you cannot separate, and it doesn't matter to. I mean, you could manufacture, a cleaning product, or you could be a Fortune 500 bank. it doesn't matter what industry you're in. We can't separate technology from our business any longer, right? They say like every company is a software company or every company is a web company, whatever. These two things are now completely and totally joined together. Whether that's our backend systems, whether that's our customer experience, all of that stuff has a technology component to it. So while I have said repeatedly that I think it's important that technologists start to speak the language of business, I think equally it's important for business leaders to spend some time with your technology people, understand what they're going through to try to maintain the business to continue to run. I think that part, is important from a business standpoint. And then again, the flip side of that, and this is a great place to meet in the middle, which is where all the answers always are, right? If business leaders can get a little bit more technology savvy and the technologists can get a little bit more business savvy, now you really have a good cohesive group to keep your company moving forward.
Yeah, totally agree. Everybody should at least try to talk each other's languages, basically,
Yeah, and
or at
if
least
if
try.
we yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. Um, I'll use security awareness training as an example. So I talk about this a lot. That we oftentimes give we've carved out October to be a security awareness month, and we put our users through
The
some sort of
yearly,
one that they click through, and is it relevant or not? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But then we expect our accounts payable people to be security experts for the other 51 weeks out of the year. And I don't think that's fair in defense of humans. And so I think keeping as it's hard to stay up to date on all of this stuff as it's coming out, right? But I think if we can just kind of everybody keep talking a little bit more of the other areas, helps at least bridge some of that gap.
yeah, I think having updated security awareness training is good. Then quarterly, maybe, and then ongoing basis. If a new thing happens, let's say 2 weeks ago, smishing was not a thing, right?
Yep.
But you find out that smishing is a thing. Just send out an email, be like, "Hey, smishing is a thing," right?
Yeah,
Versus waiting for the next iteration of training to come.
I think that's absolutely right. We can't because the changes are happening too fast.
Hmm.
Again, I've been talking about this quite a bit lately too. I think a good use for AI, and I've got an agent that's built is every Monday morning I have an agent that goes out and it finds what the trends in the I can't use that word, attacker community. All my ethical hacker friends get mad at me when I use that word wrong. So, what's happening out there? What are some new trends that you're seeing? Are any of the bad actor groups really jumping to the forefront? Are there? I think you can set something. If let's say you're a healthcare organization, um, find me breaches that may have happened this last week in our industry, how they happened. So that's a good way, I think, for security and technology organizations, one, to just know what's happening, but also to then share that out. So, we certainly, from a compliance perspective, have to do that awareness training. I think you're right. The quarterly training or staying up to date or having a platform that stays up to date in that space is important. But if you want to start breaking down the barriers between your end users and your security team, and you want to start enabling them to be more security smart, this is a great way to do it. Hey,
Mhm.
folks, there's a new, phishing campaign that, this is how we're seeing the emails come in or the text messages come in. So be on the lookout for this type of thing. And if you're able to send that sort of communication out to your end users, I think that, that helps break down those barriers and keeps them as updated as possible as well. Now, don't send out a mile-long email that no one is going to read, but can you do some short videos that you yourself, as a security person or a technology person, um, uh, produce, or make it short and interesting from an email perspective. I think just that repetitive nature of keeping people thinking security helps, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that accounts payable person has a different job. Security is not their job. We tend to think about it 24 hours a day. Most other people don't. And so I
Right.
think, again, in defense of humans, which is, well, that's my theme this year, is being in defense of humans. I think we have to do a better job of enabling them to stay as smart as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because like also the security team is feared, right, by the other teams. They're feared. So I think giving the end users more knowledge and saying, "Hey, we are not scary people. We're friendly." you know, we're
We're
friendly.
humans too. We're humans too.
Right, exactly. We're not robots. We use AI. We're not AI. right.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think, humanizing that, because at the end of the day, you would rather have an end user bring you something that isn't a threat than them not bringing you something because they're afraid of you, and then your company goes under some sort of major breach. So
Mhm.
it's imperative that, as a, as again, security and IT folks, that we are approachable from that standpoint, because the worst possible thing that you could have is people hiding stuff that they've seen, or honestly, maybe somebody clicked on something and then was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Now, what do they do with that? Do they just shuffle that off to the side, don't say anything, and hope no one notices? Or do they feel comfortable going to the security team and saying, hey, this happened. I don't know if it caused any problems, but I just wanted to make you aware. That also requires, leadership to be understanding as well, of like, people are going to make mistakes. Sometimes it's not a mistake. Sometimes this stuff is really good now. We used to talk about things like bad grammar and logos being incorrect, and other, like, that stuff is all gone. The attacks that are coming now are flawless and sophisticated. And this idea that, our end users are 100% of the time never going to click on something, again, I think that's antiquated thinking that we have to get beyond and build in our resilience. I think that's number 4. We need a counter, and and also having an environment where, you would rather people share that information with you than hoping it goes away, because that's the most dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, for leadership to also understand, I think a policy of, if somebody clicks something and they didn't know, I think also the end user are more scared of the repercussion of what would happen if, they did say something, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yep. I've
So
seen
maybe
companies that have put in the, like, 3 strikes policy or whatever. And, I do think we have to hold people accountable, right? Everyone should be professional in their jobs, and we all have a responsibility. But if we haven't, communicated that correctly, and if we haven't trained our users correctly, and if we haven't built in the resiliency in our environment properly, we're holding end users to an unattainable goal that honestly I don't think is fair.
right, the goalpost gets moved every single day,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
It gets moved every single day. And also, just a FYI, I got fallen. I fell onto a phishing email that, ended up being the company phishing exercises. But I, as a security professional, I too fell for
Yeah, yeah.
it.
I gave a security awareness presentation. It was a couple 3 years ago now, but there was an example in there that I used of a very sophisticated attack, and I kind of used it in a, like, talked about it being someone else and then spun it around at the end. And I was like, oh, that person that fell for that, this guy right here.
Hmm.
So it's like, so here's someone that's out there teaching security awareness that can also fall prey to some of the stuff that's out there. I think, uh, you know, again, do we hold people accountable to being professional, whether that's from not clicking on things or to being responsible with data and AI and all those things? Absolutely, we have to have a level that we hold people to account. But at the same time, we also can't think that people are going to be 100% perfect, because you know. Do we have
Humans.
100% of our systems patched? Do we have 100% of our applications secured? We're not 100% people, so we really can't expect our end users to be either.
Yeah. Now let's go into a little bit more personal questions. So leading at this level comes with immense pressure. What is a daily habit or mental framework you rely on to maintain clarity and avoid executive burnout?
That is probably the hardest question for me to answer in all of this, honestly, because I am not the most organized person on the planet by any stretch of the imagination. But I think some things, so maybe there's some other people that are listening that are in that case. Like I've tried journaling, I've tried all the things. And honestly, I
Doesn't
failed
work out.
pretty, pretty badly at them. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I do think it's important, and something that I've learned is to, at the beginning of the day, take a look at what you have. Now, this doesn't have to do. Now, this doesn't mean like I could go, okay, and then I write down a list of 10 things, and somewhere in the day I'm off doing something else and I only get to number three. But I do think just having an understanding a little bit, at least level setting, take a deep breath, um, you know, as you're getting your day started, I think certainly can help from that standpoint. This is what the bad actors know, though, right? They know that everybody is getting pulled in 100 different directions, and we've got you know a work computer, a home computer, another computer, a phone, a tablet, all these different devices and things. And, we've got life coming at us fast and work coming at us fast, and all the pressures and the demands, they feed off of that. So again, I think, and from like that link that I clicked that I shouldn't have clicked, that was a reminder to me of take a breath, look at your day, look at your week. I think just kind of settle in a little bit has been helpful for me. So, but
Slowing
um,
slowing down.
yeah, slowing down. I think that's exactly a great point. I think another piece that's important here is occasionally get away. Now, I'm a fisherman. I do a lot of fishing. I go fishing in some places where there's no cell signal, or sometimes I kind of need my phone in case I catch a big fish. I want to take a picture of it. But if you can, just from time and whatever it is, if you can just find some time to get away from some of this stuff, I think it can turn off some of the craziness that's in our minds and clear heads, and maybe allow us to be a little more focused the next day as well.
Yeah, go on airplane mode and just chill.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
It is. It is. I've been taking up embroidery, and it has helped me just take a chill pill, just like, just looking at the canvas and just doing through the needles and stuff like that. So it has helped me do that. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's my fishing for now. But I'll
Yeah,
find
it's
some other
yeah.
I'll find some other arts and craft or something to jump on once I'm over this
Yeah.
embroidery.
I think it's important, and I like to joke that I'm a fisherman with an F and not a PH. But I do think it's important. Whatever that may be, and
Mhm,
one thing that I think is maybe a skill of mine is being observant of things that I see successful people doing, and trying to learn or glean something
mm,
off of that. And the best developer that I've ever worked with. and this guy was hardcore on coding. But he raised orchids. That was the thing that
Oh,
he did as his I need to get away. And again, this is a very analog, real type of thing. So, I think finding something that grounds you back to reality in the real world sets your mind straight to jump back into our crazy digital one.
yeah, totally agree. Now, looking back at the trajectory of your career so far, what is the one blueprint or leadership principle you hope the next generation of the executive inherits from you?
Yeah, I think the most important thing there is to understand that where you're at now is not where you're going to be in 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Again, I think especially for younger folks that have grown up in the era of if I want it, I get it. We don't even have to go to the video store to rent movies anymore. We just click things. Like everything we want is here and now. And so I yeah.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
uh,
oh, let's hear.
again, this is not me preaching because I think I have a subscription to literally every streaming service on the planet. But I think in understanding that, um, look at your career as a progression and a journey. And a lot of young people want to jump in and be security experts right away, or they jump in and they want to be um, you know leaders right away. I credit most of my success to the fact that I started on a very basic help desk job.
Mhm.
Then I moved into a desktop support role and then a network support role. And I built a career, overall 30 plus years now, that has a firm foundation in not great jobs. But I think if I always say like your first, especially in security, your first job is going to be your most difficult one. So get that job and just know if this isn't what you like, it's fine. You'll grow and you'll expand and be able to find, new opportunities as they come up. I think that's the most important thing. Don't get hung up on where you're at right now. Use your career as a progression. And when you're, if you're, you know, 30 and you're looking at people that are in their 50s and you think you should be there, just know that they were in the same place when they were 30. And, it's, there are those people that just, kind of scale their way up quickly. But I also know some of those folks that have gotten into roles too soon and then failed at them, or don't have a good understanding of, all the other people that are a part of this process to make an organization grow. So building a building a career step by step, progressing, not trying to go too fast through it. It builds empathy, it builds a skill set, it builds communication skills, it builds all the things. So to me, that's the most important part. Look at your career as a journey and know that where you're at right now, you're going to be in a different place in 2, 3, 5, 10 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because also the the feeling of 0 to 100, I feel like that's a lot of the sentiment for the younger generation
Yep.
is that they need to be from 0 to 100 real quick, right? So that because of social media and all those things where it's always showing you, oh, it's showing you 0 and then it's showing you 100, and
Yeah,
then you're like, there's nothing in between.
that's right.
But in reality there is something in between, right? Be- it, it
Yeah,
the thing is, they show you the before and then they show you the after, but they're not showing you what's in between. There's no progression. There's not, like if you look at some of the shorts or even the videos, the even for working out, right? They're always showing the before and the after. They're not showing, oh, they struggled for, a year to get through to the after. It's usually before and after. You're like, okay, well, what did you do in between? but they
Yeah.
don't tell you, right?
That's
Most of the
right, and
time.
that's the grinding part of it that I think, makes all of us better having to go through it. But yeah, you're 100% right there that's I think is a mindset that a lot of, a lot of younger people especially have and probably driven by social media completely, like you said, of, wanting to and nothing inherently wrong with wanting to be successful. I just think we have to think of our career in terms of like steps and a progression, and that the end is a destination and not a starting place.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So, Matt, I thank you so much for your time. I do not have any more questions.
All right. Well, this was a great conversation, and I think we hit on a lot of really important topics, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, I appreciate being a part of it. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you. So, I thank you for your time, and I thank you to the Wise crew for watching, and I see you guys next time. Bye.